Today was the first day of classes. I'm back at it. In my Caribbean Cultural Studies class, I began with an example of African sovereignty. Because in order to study the Caribbean, you have to understand how African labor becomes the motor of the modern world. To introduce this, I began with a series of images demonstrating maps of Africa prior to colonialism. I allow my students an opportunity to watch the image and to make observations. I teach them to distinguish between observations, inferences, and analysis. My students are always impressed with the image of Dutch emissaries bowing prostrate before the King of the Congo, produced in the 17th century. Using the work of historian John Thornton, I emphasize the fact that in the 15th century, when the Portuguese arrived in the Congo, 1482, Congo and Portugal have very similar levels of development. This allows students to disassociate chaos and primitivity from the narrative of Africa. Finally, I introduce the Atlantic slave trade as the true cause for the instability in West Central Africa and ultimately the destruction of the Kingdom of the Congo and Ndongo. In later weeks, my students will have an opportunity to see how the destruction of the Kingdom of the Congo participated greatly in the Atlantic slave trade, thus providing the Caribbean with the labor Europeans needed but didn't want to provide themselves. Dr. Petway, author of Cuban Literature in the Age of Black Insurrection. Take care.